Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I hope you are doing well. This week's Parsha is Tzav. So we are in the second Parsha of the new book of the Torah, the Vayikra, which is Leviticus. And again, as we've mentioned, Leviticus is notoriously a little bit dry because it's really mostly about the Mishkan, the portable tabernacle that the Jews used in the desert. So this week's parsha, we get a lot of commandments about the temple and the service of the temple, and our own sons who will become the kohanim, the priests, are given are given their initiation rites and these sorts of things. And something that's interesting that is introduced in this week's parsha is the ner tamid, the eternal flame, which we have symbolically in every shul. At the top of the on the bima at the ark, there is a light that's supposed to stay on forever. And we have this because this existed in the temple. So it's commanded that there should be a light that is kindled every morning and every night, and it should eternally be burning. And it's supposed to symbolize the eternal heart of the Jewish people. It's a really beautiful symbol. And it's also interesting when we think about how the temple sometimes is compared to, a human body or a body of any kind. There's the outside and the inner parts, like the organs, other important parts. And then the Ner Tamid is either representing the Pintele Yid, the spark of holiness within every Jew, or it's representing the heart of every Jew. And this idea of consistency, of day in and day out, something being there, is just so symbolic in Judaism. As we know, we're a people who have existed for many, many, many years. There's the beautiful Mark Twain quote about how every other nation has risen up and fallen, but the Jew outlasts them all. And we really do have this sort of focus on consistency and showing up and doing the things every day, even if they're not interesting, doing the parts of Judaism that are important. For example, we're supposed to daven, we're supposed to pray even if we don't feel like it. We're not so much about, of course, your intention, it would be great for everyone's intention always should be that they want to have a beautiful, meaningful spiritual experience. But the truth is that if you wait for moments of inspiration, you'll never do the thing you're supposed to do. So there's something that I saw that related to this concept. So I'm just going to share my screen. So there is a part in the Gemara and the Talmud commentary on the Torah where rabbis are arguing about the most important pasuk, the most important line in the Torah. So the first, Rabbi Akiva says, "Love your fellow man as yourself," famous. Ben Azai says, "This is the book of Adam. On the day that God created man, he made him in his image." This is emphasizing, that every B'Tselem Elohim, that we're all in the image of God. Okay, beautiful concept. The Maharal of Prague, and there's additions to this midrash. Ben Zoma says the most inclusive verse, the most important verse is Shema, representing, Shema Yisrael, the hero of Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. God is one. And then more inclusive then Shema is love your fellow man as yourself, as we talked about. And then Shimon ben Pazi says, gives an example of the daily offering. The first lamb you shall sacrifice in the morning, and the second lamb you shall sacrifice in the evening. And I don't, like, when I first read that, I'm like, no, like, it should be Shema, it should be it should be any of the other ones that are like so inclusive and lovely. But the point is with Shimon ben Pazi, someone that I'm not familiar with, bringing up that it should be a sacrifice, is emphasizing that Judaism is not about these ecstatic, beautiful spiritual moments. It's about the day in and the day out, the yom yom, the everyday things that we're doing. And these daily sacrifices, which we are not really necessarily so relevant to our lives today, but the daily sacrifices can be translated into davening, perhaps. They can be translated into just having a moment where you wake up and you say Modeh Ani, and you go to sleep and you say Shema. Like, it means more than just sacrifices. It's like, I would normally look at that and be like, okay, no, it's love your neighbor as yourself, it's Shema. But I actually connect with this idea that the most important pasuk, the most important line of the Torah, is emphasizing that we must do things yom yom, we must do things every day, and like the Ner Tamid, that is consistent and always burning and always even in the background, not being showy, not so grand, just a small light burning. It represents so much, and I love the idea of the Jewish soul being so eternal like that. So I'm curious what you guys think. If you think that the Shema is the most important pasuk, if you think the line of loving your neighbor as yourself is the most inclusive, or if you think the idea of a daily, thing that we do is most important. I'm curious what you think. But Shabbat Shalom, God willing, I will see you all next week.